Have you ever had a moment where you felt completely unstoppable? Maybe it was after hearing an incredible speaker, finishing a powerful book, or even just waking up one morning with a fire in your chest. In that moment, everything felt possible. You saw your goals clearly, you felt the courage to chase them, and nothing seemed too far out of reach. But then, slowly, that feeling faded. The energy that once surged through you was replaced by the noise of everyday life. Emails, deadlines, doubts, and distractions. You didn't choose to lose the feeling, it just slipped away. You told yourself you'd get back to it tomorrow, next week, when life settles down. But the days pass and the energy doesn't return. That spark that once lit you up now feels like a distant memory. And you start to wonder, was that feeling ever real, or was it just a momentary illusion? Is motivation always this fleeting? Here's the truth, that spark was real, that energy was real. But what no one tells you is that motivation isn't something you find, it's something you build. It's not just about getting hyped once, it's about learning how to turn it on demand. It's about creating an inner system that generates momentum no matter what's happening around you. That's the difference between those who keep rising and those who keep restarting. It's not that they never lose motivation, it's that they've learned how to access it again and again, even on their hardest days. This is your moment to learn how to do the same. Not to chase motivation, but to harness it, because the energy you once felt is still inside you. And you're about to learn how to ignite it whenever you choose. There's something powerful about being in a room where energy crackles in the air, where every heartbeat feels synced to a larger purpose, where strangers become allies, and where you feel more alive than you have in months. It could happen at a seminar, a concert, a breakthrough moment in a conversation. For a few hours, the noise in your head quiets, the weight on your shoulders lifts, and you start to believe, truly believe, that you're capable of so much more than you've been living. You leave inspired, hopeful, ready to take action. And for a while, you do. You make the list, you set the alarm, you commit to showing up differently, more focused, more driven, more in control. But slowly, and often without even realizing it, the momentum fades. The alarm gets snooze, the list gathers dust, the excitement gives way to routine, and the clarity that once seemed so sharp starts to blur again. Life creeps back in with its never-ending demands, work stress, family obligations, fear of failure, and self-doubt. You try to remember how you felt in that moment of clarity, but it's like trying to hold water in your hands. It slips through, leaving you wondering, what happened? This isn't a personal flaw. It's not weakness, laziness, or lack of discipline. It's a pattern that affects nearly everyone. The problem isn't that you don't get motivated. The problem is you haven't learned how to sustain motivation when your environment doesn't support it. You've had glimpses of what's possible. You felt the shift inside. Now it's time to bring that into your everyday life, not as a rare burst of inspiration, but as a reliable, renewable force you can tap into at will. You don't need a perfect setting, a cheering crowd, or a breakthrough moment to feel powerful. You need a strategy. You need a way to generate energy from within, to build habits that reinforce your vision, and to rewire your thinking so you're not constantly starting over. That's what this journey is about. It's not about chasing hype. It's about owning your power. Once you understand how to harness motivation instead of waiting for it to show up, everything changes. The goals don't get easier, but you get stronger. And when you learn to generate that inner spark, regardless of circumstances, you become unstoppable, not just for a day, but for life. The real challenge isn't getting motivated. That part's easy. Anyone can feel inspired after watching a powerful video, reading a life-changing quote, or having a deep conversation. In those moments, something inside us lights up. We see clearly. We feel stronger. We imagine the version of ourselves we know we're capable of becoming. But that's not the hard part. The real difficulty begins when the moment passes, when Monday morning hits, when the routine kicks back in, and when the world stops cheering you on. Motivation fades. It always does. And for most people, this becomes a cycle. Get fired up, take action for a few days, hit resistance, and fall back into old habits. Then comes the guilt, the self-blame. You start to wonder if something is wrong with you. You question your discipline, your willpower, even your worth. You begin to believe the lie that maybe you're not meant for more. But here's the truth. There's nothing wrong with you. The problem is the way we think about motivation itself. Most of us treat motivation like an emotional wave, something we ride when it's high and suffer through when it's low. We wait for the right mood, the right moment, the perfect environment to act. But what if that moment never comes? What if the energy never returns? Then what? The truth is, if your drive depends on outside factors, you'll always be at their mercy. And that means your dreams will be too. The deeper issue is that we've never been taught how to generate motivation. We've only been shown how to consume it. We've become dependent on external jolts of inspiration instead of learning how to fuel ourselves from within. That's the trap, feeling like we constantly need to be pumped up in order to move forward. But real progress, lasting change, comes from something deeper than hype. Comes from building internal systems that support your momentum even on the days you don't feel like showing up. The challenge isn't about finding more motivation. It's about creating a structure where motivation is no longer the deciding factor. It's about developing habits, routines, and mindsets that work when your emotions don't. Because the reality is, success isn't built on bursts of energy. It's built on what you do after the energy fades. That's the hard part. And it's exactly where most people stop. Right before everything starts to change. Enough. If motivation alone isn't enough, the question becomes, how do you move forward when the energy fades? How do you stay consistent when you're not feeling inspired? The answer lies in shifting from relying on emotion to building systems. Practical, repeatable tools that train your mind and body to take action regardless of mood. It starts with your state, your physical and mental energy in any given moment. Most people try to think their way into action, but the fastest way to shift into motion is through the body. Simple things like standing tall, breathing deeply, moving with purpose. These aren't just feel-good tips. They're scientifically proven ways to change your biochemistry. When you move differently and when you feel differently, you act differently. The trick is not to wait until you feel ready, but to use your body to create readiness. Next comes focus. What you choose to focus on determines how you feel, and how you feel influences what you do. If your attention is always on what's going wrong, how tired you are, or how far you still have to go, you'll talk yourself out of progress. But if you learn to focus on progress, even small wins, you fuel momentum. The brain is wired to continue what it starts. Celebrate tiny victories. Focus on what's in your control. That shift in focus becomes the fuel for consistent action. Then there's language. The words you use, even in your own mind, shape your reality. Saying, I can't, or I'm tired, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But shifting your language to things like, I'm learning, I'm getting stronger, or even let's go, rewires how you perceive your effort. Language isn't just communication, it's direction. Give your brain instructions that move you forward. Finally, anchor your motivation to something deeper. Surface level goals won't sustain you in the long run. But when your actions are tied to a meaningful purpose, something that truly matters to you, then discipline becomes devotion. It's not about forcing yourself, it's about aligning with something bigger than the resistance you feel. By mastering your state, focus, language, and purpose, you create a framework that doesn't depend on temporary hype. You build a system where motivation isn't a mystery, it's a skill. And skills can be practiced, refined, and mastered. This is how real transformation begins, not with another burst of energy, but with the tools to create your own every single day. There comes a moment in every journey where you realize that no one is coming to push you, no one is going to carry you, and no external spark will magically keep the fire lit. It's the moment when you've tried the quick fixes, the hacks, the temporary boosts, and they've all faded. You find yourself staring in the mirror, feeling the weight of your own potential, wondering why it still feels out of reach. That's when something shifts, not because someone said the right thing or because the conditions are finally perfect, but because you finally decide to take full responsibility for your own energy. It's in that quiet, unglamorous space without the music, the crowd, the hype, where the breakthrough happens. You begin to understand that motivation isn't about waiting to feel ready. It's about creating readiness through repeated action. You stop chasing the emotional high and instead start building the internal firewood, your habits, your routines, your mindset. You realize you've been waiting for permission, waiting for confidence to magically appear, waiting for the fear to go away, waiting for someone to remind you of your greatness. But no more. That moment of recognition, of reclaiming your power, becomes the true turning point. Because from there, everything changes. You stop measuring success by how motivated you feel and start measuring it by how consistent you are. You begin to trust yourself, not because you're perfect, but because you're committed. You don't need to rely on mood swings to guide your actions. You've trained your mind to lead and your emotions follow. You begin to operate from purpose instead of pressure. You don't need a reason to show up. You are the reason. You've experienced enough false starts to know that this time it's not about intensity. It's about sustainability. You don't need to do everything all at once. You just need to do the next right thing again and again. That's how the shift becomes permanent. This is the moment where discipline becomes freedom and routine becomes empowerment, where you stop hoping for motivation and start becoming the source of it. You don't just feel powerful, you are powerful because you built it one decision at a time. And that, more than any speech or surge of emotion, is what keeps you moving every day, no matter what. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear the journey isn't about waiting for inspiration to strike. It's about learning to move forward without it. Motivation, while powerful, is fleeting by nature. It comes and goes like the weather. But what you build within yourself, your habits, your routines, your ability to take action despite resistance, that's what truly shapes your life. That's what determines whether your goals remain ideas or become reality. So you've seen what happens when you rely on bursts of energy. You start strong, feel the rush, but then life throws a curveball and everything pauses. Days turn into weeks, and before you know it, you're back at the beginning, chasing that feeling again. But now you know better. You know that lasting change doesn't come from emotional highs. It comes from deciding to lead yourself even on the days when everything feels heavy. You've learned that your body, your focus, your words, and your sense of purpose are tools. Tools you can use to ignite momentum at any time. You don't have to wait for ideal conditions. You don't have to rely on outside voices to remind you of your potential. It's all within you. You just need to use it, to practice it, to trust it. You've also realized that consistency is far more powerful than intensity, that showing up, even in a small way, beats waiting for the perfect moment. That motivation isn't something you find, it's something you generate, something you practice, something you become. This process won't always be easy. You'll still face days when doubt creeps in, when the path seems unclear, but now you have a method, you have a way to get back on track, and that makes all the difference. The choice is yours now. Will you keep waiting for motivation to return, or will you start becoming the person who creates it? Because once you realize you have that power, everything changes. Not just for a moment, but for good. You don't need another push. You just need to remember that you already have everything it takes. And from this moment forward, you're no longer hoping to feel ready. You're creating readiness every single day. Now it's time to move from reflection to action. You've gained the awareness, understood the patterns, and seen how motivation works and doesn't. But insight without action changes nothing. If you want to break the cycle of starting strong and fading fast, you must begin building a system that supports you, especially when you don't feel like showing up. Start small. Choose one thing you can do today that reinforces the version of yourself you want to become. It might be waking up 30 minutes earlier to focus on your goals. It might be writing down 3 things you're committed to doing no matter what. It might be choosing to speak to yourself differently, replacing self-doubt with even one empowering thought. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be intentional. Pick one ritual that puts you into motion. Maybe it's a song that gets you moving, a walk to clear your head, a short workout, or even standing tall and taking a deep breath before your day begins. Anchor this ritual to the start of your morning or a moment of transition in your day. Make it your trigger, a reminder that you're not waiting anymore, you're leading. Also, take a moment to reconnect with your deeper reason. What are you building? Who are you becoming? Write it down. Put it somewhere visible. Read it when you wake up and again before bed. Let it guide your choices, especially when motivation is low. And finally, commit to consistency over perfection. If you miss a day, don't wait for Monday to start over. Pick it back up the very next moment. Progress isn't about flawless execution. It's about the refusal to quit. This is your invitation to stop chasing energy and start creating it. To stop hoping for momentum and start building it. You already know what it feels like to be fired up. Now it's time to learn how to stay lit. Not because someone else is pushing you, but because you've decided to become your own spark. Don't wait for the perfect mood. Don't wait for life to calm down. Don't wait for another sign. You've already got it. The next move is yours. Take it right now. Decide who you are. Choose what comes next. And then take the first small, solid step toward the life that's waiting for you to claim it.